right. Welcome, Nick.
Hi.
Welcome, everybody. It's great to have you here. For those of you who don't know Nick, if you ever see him outside of his home, it is 100% certainty he's going to be wearing this hat, which is the always be selling mentality that we love in the founders that we work with. So I'm Seth. I'm one of the general partners at ICONIQ. I lead our international business. For those of you who don't know ICONIQ, we are a global investment platform. We partner with founders from the early signs of product market fit all the way through the public markets, and have been the primary partners to some of the most impactful technology companies of the last decade, like Anthropic, 11 Labs, Snowflake, Datadog, and many others. We've also been very active investors in companies that are addressing pain points in the office of the CFO, companies like Coupa that are working in procurement, Ramp and spend management, Pigment in business planning, and of course, Rillet, which is building an AI-native ERP. I'm really glad that Nick agreed to do this because Rillet is one of the fastest growing and certainly one of the most exciting portfolio companies that we have. So, Nick, thank you again. Rather than me giving a long-winded intro of you, why don't you introduce yourself and share a little bit more about what Rillet does?
Yeah, great to be here. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for getting up early. My name is Nicolas Kopp, CEO and founder of Rillet. We're building an AI-native ERP. As Seth said, for the non-ERP fans or accountants in the house, so it's basically the source system of record, the general ledger that stores all your financial information where accountants close their books. And yeah, we've been successful at doing that. So we have 300 customers on the platform today, power some of the fastest growing companies in the world, including Mercor, hitting billions of revenue on our platform here shortly. Some of Elon Musk's companies as well, who are notoriously hard on external vendors and who to procure externally, as well as Windsurf and some of the other AI companies out there.
Amazing. Nick is also unfailingly humble, so I'd add that one of the things that really impressed us about Rillet was how quickly and broadly it was adopted from the moment it launched. As he said, he's got hundreds of customers. They've grown by 15x since they went live. And it's really become a de facto tool for any early and growth stage company that is graduating off QuickBooks or other ERP systems. So again, thrilled to have you here. So let's dive in. As I alluded, Rillet has scaled just incredibly quickly in the last couple of quarters, both on the team side from 10 to 100 people. We've raised close to $100 million of capital in that same period. That's testament to your incredible execution, but it's also this general sentiment in the market of building with urgency and speed as a strategic imperative. And so maybe comment on that first in terms of how you see that both at Rillet and the broader ecosystem.
Yeah. So there is, AI companies today are sort of notorious for moving extremely quickly, which is, we are too, but it's exponentially hard sort of in a category that is working with a professional group of people, accountants, who are not very risk-loving, sort of on average. And so from that perspective, I think it's sort of number one, understanding the details in the domain really well. There is like hundreds of secret sort of handshakes and little sort of interactions that you have in the product or with your customer service that kind of show that you know them and the ecosystem really well. And then the other thing is just like going in increments, like going fast, going in increments. We release on a weekly basis. There's a lot of product surface area to build. And so that urgency that we have at the company translates to real customer benefit, which is a superpower as a company.
Yeah. No, makes a lot of sense. And to a lot of folks, Rillet may seem like an overnight success story just given the momentum in the business. But you actually spent a couple of years really getting to know the nuances of accounting workflows and really taking your time to build a product that customers would love. Maybe walk us through that journey before you actually went live.
Yeah. So every startup founder, when you start a company, you're impatient. You want to get to market. You want to build your product. You want to amplify all the good work that you're doing into the world. And in our case here, we had the same character traits or DNA. We were really excited to share what we're working on. But you have this massive surface area of product that you need to build out and like just to move to the starting line. So to build an ERP, to build a general ledger from the ground up, there's literally hundreds of functionalities and feature sets that need to be there to be even in the conversation. Forget the light, forget like your value add over current systems. And so in that regard, we moved with urgency quickly. I think it really helped that we had a team that kind of understood the domain really well. We had, again, I'm biased, I love our product, what we've built, but I think we had taste in sort of the execution and the product that we've shaped and built, which really helped. And then moving sort of into sort of a data architecture and data syntax that is really thoughtful and well thought out now helps us in this AI age to build products that are truly magical.
Yeah. And during our diligence, we spoke to a lot of your customers, and it's been some of the most effusive, qualitative feedback that we've heard. And a common refrain was that Rillet was built by accountants for accountants. Maybe talk a little bit about that, framing and what that means to you guys.
Yeah. So if you're, I'm not sure how many accountants there are in the room. I'm probably not going to ask to raise hands because it's probably so few. But for people that are familiar with sort of or the founders and investors in the room that are familiar with the ecosystem, it's really, there's a ton of accounting software out there. And accountants and the users of these products feel fundamentally mostly oversold. Like there's all these software vendors coming in with their promises of doing X, Y, Z and delivering on Y, and it hardly ever manifests. So for us, what's really been helpful is being a team of accountants. Our head of product, for example, is a ex-auditor from EY, has been a controller, has bought NetSuite, has bought Sage Intacct, has implemented these types of systems. I have very intimate familiarity with all these workflows. That helps a lot with sort of the credibility early on as you get started as sort of a product and company. And then the other thing that I think is really important to note is just like real customer love and value. So we had this customer, and I remember very fondly because when you start a company, again, your first couple of customers really, really shape who you are as a not even just product, but as a team and company. And we had this beautiful story where one of our customers at a company literally was just doing RevRec and invoicing as his main job. That's what he was doing 30 days, basically a month, with our software, and the up-leveling that we've done for him allowed him then to afterwards do something completely else, help his team, and it rippled through the whole company where all the way up to the CFO, they could now focus on things that had sort of CEO level, board level impact.
Yep.
So once you hear these stories of really changing people's lives and fundamentally changing their career paths, that's sort of also another testament and to like what you're building, and you can use that obviously then to get new customers and help spread the word.
No, amazing. You guys have done a great job building the hard things right and early. Was there a decision that you made early on that in hindsight has unlocked, more speed or leverage now?
So I think on the purely technical side, and I'll keep it light, is just the information architecture of the application is, again, we were biased, but I think phenomenal actually, in terms of truly enabling a more real-time version of finance and accounting and delivering on the promises that accountants get excited about, like making the zero-day close a reality, which really means that as an accountant or a company, a finance team, all of a sudden you can close your books in close to real time on an ongoing basis. So that's sort of one element that was really important early on. But I think much more fundamentally and maybe applicably for the audience here is we also had a good combination between luck and judgment of some of our early folks that we hired. So I mentioned this one lady who's our head of product now. That was a completely non-obvious hire at the time.
Yeah.
Obviously, she knew the domain very well, but in terms of product background and expertise, she had good taste, but it was fairly light. We also had the person who does a lot of our marketing and go-to-market and awareness today is actually head of finance. Like, he has never done marketing in a professional context by any background or CV, but again, you could sense the taste, you could sense the love for our customers, you could sense the good intuition, and with a lot of steep trajectory and hard work, these are the best people to surround yourselves with.
Your product velocity is pretty insane. I feel like every week we're talking about a new release that you guys have planned. How have you been able to maintain that, and what's sort of culturally behind that?
Yep. I mean, it's hard. I got to say, like, it's very easy to have fast shipping velocity when you're like 3 engineers in a room.
Yeah.
Once you start scaling, QA and testing becomes a foundational part of your application. We're in a very conservative, again, environment of what we're delivering as a service and product. So I think it boils down to excellence. I think our team is just phenomenal. Like the engineers we have on the team are some of the best in the world. And so we built out automated testing infrastructures and environments that allow us to release very regularly and consistently and do a lot of the testing automatically before it even goes to a human for some of the domain testing. So there's some, again, architectural foundational decisions that we've taken that are extremely, I think, impactful. And then culturally, just that extreme sense of urgency, again, applied to a domain that is conservative in its core, so you need to adopt it a little bit. But you mentioned our weekly feature releases, which are phenomenal. Like customers get a feature release update every single Friday with like 3 things that change in the application. And so compare that to a NetSuite who's like releases twice a year if you're lucky type of thing.
If you're lucky. You touched on this, but I wanted to double click on it. There's this balance between, moving quickly, which, is perhaps an external pressure, and this internal pressure of, doing things carefully and right because of, the customer base that you're building towards, or accountants, and trust is at the core of success in the product. How have you balanced that?
So I think people sometimes ask me the question as well on like balancing trust and speed, basically, in all of this. There's a lot of sort of fake trade-offs in business where it's either one or the other, and then actually the real answer is kind of both or something third. Same thing here. So for me, trust is unnegotiable in terms of what we're building. This is not the next sort of social media app or like tool where maybe bugs are part of the feature set, like in creativity or like LLMs drafting certain images or videos. So for me, trust is an absolute imperative. We will always index on trust and scalability of the system when in doubt. But you do need to move fast as well. And even the most risk-averse of buyers and users of your application will really appreciate if the team underlyingly is moving fast in the context of the domain here. So it's kind of a bit of both, I think, the way I think about it.
Yeah. We're seeing a ton of innovation, as I alluded to earlier, around kind of the broader office of the CFO and the ERP. I mentioned a few of the portfolio companies we work with, like Pigment, Flowcast, Ramp, and others. The general ledger has been notoriously very hard to displace, and you've kind of managed to break that ceiling and kind of emerge as this next generation leader. What's been different this time around, or what did you guys figure out that's enabled you to do that?
Yeah. So for context, everybody, there has been literally no change in the wider ERP/GL space in like 20 years. So what we're doing, I sometimes compare a little bit like sending rockets to Mars. We're self-aware that accounting is not quite as cool as
for accountants, you are sending rockets to Mars.
For accountants, we really are. It's extremely hard, very audacious in terms of what we're achieving, but also really impactful. Like it fundamentally changes humanity for SpaceX, but like for us, the accounting profession with success here. So that's sort of the context and framing in which we operate. There's 2 reasons why it's been so hard in my mind in the last 20 to 30 years to actually do what we're doing. So on the one side, again, biased, but I think we have a uniquely positioned team to execute and navigate an idea maze that has infinite dimensions, basically, around how to build this product and go about it. So a good mix between domain expertise, but also none of us has been working at NetSuite or Oracle or SAP or any of these systems for 20 or 30 years. So I think the combination there really helped. And then not surprisingly, why probably a lot of us are here today, AI, artificial intelligence, is a true game changer, even in accounting. And so you can enable now certain use cases and workflows with the data we have in the application that we've built over the last 2 to 3 years to really create these magic experiences where you can pile through thousands of PDF pages, glean unstructured data that then influence an accounting workflow, for example. So the combination between, I think, a really robust like foundational land of deterministic software and like the logic in accounting, combined with what is truly a revolutionary technology, creates this magic experience that kind of pierces through that veil of impenetrable ERP systems.
Yeah. Because you brought up AI, I wanted to ask about that. in given that accounting, everything has to be right. How have you navigated the guardrails for these AI models, which tend to hallucinate and make them act more deterministically in your agentic workflows?
Yeah, so LLMs are not particularly good at math, as everybody I know probably knows. And so for us, there's basically two sort of foundational components to what we're building. So component number one is a lot of the accounting workflows fundamentally happen deterministically. So based on the same set of input information, there's always the same, I'm not sure if we swear here or not, but F in output, basically, that happens a million times in a row in a couple of milliseconds. So that part is really a foundational part of our application by design. And then the LLM parts are usually on the way in and the way out. So LLMs are phenomenal at making sense of unstructured information to glean what is essentially then the inputs for the deterministic process. Or alternatively as well, on the output side, once you have all that clean financial information in our application in Rillet, you can then use LLMs to build a report in human or in natural language, for example, where you can just say, grab me all my expenses by vendor for the last year, break it down by month and department. And all of a sudden, that prompt that used to take you literally 10 hours to build in a legacy system happens in a couple of seconds. So these sort of on the way in and on the way out, AI is really impactful. The middle pieces are highly deterministic.
Yeah, no, makes a lot of sense. So you built this product that hundreds of customers love. You've started to move up market, not only displace QuickBooks and Xero and some of the other smaller legacy ERP tools, but now NetSuite as well. What else is on the roadmap for you, and what are you excited about in the coming quarters?
Yeah. So the two focus areas for us in the next couple of quarters are really all about going up market. So to Seth's point, I'm amazed by the amount of by the amount of demand for what we're doing, which is awesome, but also by the amount of really sophisticated accounting teams working at really large global organizations that are taking interest in what we're doing in Rillet. And for some of them, today we're too small or not quite a fit yet, but for some of these companies, we actually are. And so we work with a few design partners now on the public IPO readiness, for example, and we work with companies that have a real exposure to public markets. So there's a huge opportunity there on sort of the IPO public market readiness, which is sort of the last frontier, I'd say, for an ERP where you want to break into. And then at that point in maybe 1 or 2 years, every single top tier AI or SaaS company in the Bay Area will list on Rillet as their source application. So that is sort of number one focus area for us as a company. And then secondly, these AI models get better so much more quickly. It's mind-blowing that we're constantly iterating and shipping.
Sure.
Where at some point, hopefully, in the next 1 to 2 years, we're actually going to be at a point where you can close your books in a couple of hours in an afternoon, which is true magic for accountants.
That is amazing. And I love that North Star. If we switch gears for a second and talk a little bit about company building and scaling the team, as I mentioned earlier, you've raised about $100 million in the last couple of quarters. You've also scaled the team pretty dramatically. Talk about what that's been like in terms of growing, to 100 people in just a couple of quarters, and how the organization has coped with that, and any processes or scaffolding that you've put in place to be able to ingest that many people.
Yeah. So hypergrowth is extremely exciting, but also extremely painful in the day-to-day. So for all folks in the audience that can empathize with that. We are, on the one side, hiring really quickly. So one maybe obvious piece, but really also often overlooked, I think, by founders and company builders, is having a really strategic and core recruiting team is a core component of what we're doing. Given the amount of people we hire, given the quality bar, and the bar for urgency and excellence we have at Rillet, you need to have the best recruiting team on market to go get that done. So I think that's one piece that I've paid a lot of attention to. We have a phenomenal team there that I'm very proud of. So that's one side of the house that's really important. And then once people join, the hardest part about this phase is disseminating the context and knowledge of customers, history of the company, future vision where we're going, in a really effective and quick way. Because you can imagine at some point, almost 50% of your company has only been with Rillet like for 3 months or something. Like it's just absurd. So for all folks in the room that know how much you know about your company and your work 3 months in, it's close to zero. And so from that perspective, I think disseminating that knowledge quick, obviously hiring very fast learners has really helped us like scale that quickly without like things breaking in the background. Too much. It's not perfect, but too much.
And given the, one of the things I always worry about when companies are scaling this quickly is ensuring that the talent bar stays high enough. Do you centralize that through the recruiting team, or is that something you get involved with to ensure that everybody that comes through the door is as good as your first 10 hires?
Yeah, I was going to say, that's me, basically. I centralize the hiring bar personally. I obviously have a phenomenal team across multiple functions. I only do either first or final interviews today, so sometimes first to sort of get a sense for the candidate and where they'd fit in the organization and maybe share why they should join Rillet. Or then the last piece as just a final interview. So I interview every single person that joins Rillet to date still, and we'll be doing that as long as I possibly can.
You kind of alluded to this earlier, but you've balanced speed and trust and quality, I would say, incredibly well. Those are three things that rarely coexist. Any tips that you have for founders that are building today and perhaps other mission-critical software categories that can learn from the way you've been able to do that so well?
Yeah, at the end of the day, the magic comes together, I think, in the people that you hire and bring onto the team, and then the customers you work with. Sort of that chemistry between team and yourself, as well as the customer that you're building for, is really all that matters. So, from that perspective, I'm not sure how translatable that is, but like I think into your specific world, that sort of paying attention to that chemistry, how is that trending as well? Like, is that trending in the right direction? It may not be perfect in the beginning because your product is not quite there yet, or you're having a few gaps, or you're getting to know your customer or customer base. But over time, the derivative of that chemistry should really go all the way up and to the right. So I think that's maybe one thing that's really important to pay attention to, that you can uniquely do also very well as a founder, because you just feel it in your bones. So that's maybe one thing. And then the other thing that was really helpful to us is I was very transparent with our investor base before you guys came on board, and even with you, Seth, is like, this will be an absolute monster undertaking. We're here to build a generational company where there only have been existed maybe 10 in recent sort of human history. So that's the bar for Rillet and what we're building. At the same time, good things do take time. So just having stakeholders around the table that are not just here for the next quick dollar tomorrow, but are here for the next $100 in a couple of years, has really helped us basically set the framing for the company successfully.
Yeah. Just in the category of the AI native ERP, there has been a lot of noise, from a funding perspective. What makes Rillet really stand out and so special for the founders and finance leaders in the room here?
Yeah. It all starts with product at the end of the day. We have by far the best product on market in terms of depth, nuance, and functionality feature, the value we really create. So I think that's sort of the pillar starting point of everything. Ramp in your portfolio, we look up to a lot, is obviously very much similar in that regard. And then the other area is just excellence of team, because it all starts and ends with the team. I think we have a phenomenal group of people, of accountants, controllers, CPAs, as well as like AI and software engineers from Harvard, MIT, and you go through the list basically of people. So that's sort of the other area where we're very proud of what we've built, and customers really see the difference.
It's incredible. Nick, you've been very successful in raising capital. You're on stage with one of your investors. For the founders out there that are thinking about raising capital, it can be like speed dating for a longer-term marriage. How did you think about choosing your capital partners?
Yeah. For us, it was cultural fit. But I'll use you as an example, Seth, is like, so you just saw very early on sort of the opportunity of what we're building. You knew it was going to be hard. You had some successful investments in the space that sort of made you see early, I think, what we're working on. So I think you want a meeting of the minds there, of someone that supports you genuinely in terms of what you're doing, why you're here, where you don't have to explain the market map and pull out the McKinsey reports as to why something is happening. Like, you want people that feel it a little bit too. And then the other thing is just cultural and execution excellence. ICONIQ is phenomenal. In terms of just like getting stuff done. Like, building a company is really hard. You want to just feel like one with your investors, where there's just no friction. Things just move as quickly as you're moving. And I think that's the other part where just like you work with these folks. To your point, it's like it's a long dated marriage for a very long time.
Yeah, that's amazing, and thank you. We've really, it's been such a pleasure to be on the journey with you. I unfortunately think we're out of time, but for the folks that are looking for a new ERP tool there as they kind of graduate off QuickBooks and NetSuite and other tools, where can they find Rillet and the good folks that are selling it?
Yeah. So we have, you can follow over at Rillet.com is sort of our website. You can follow me or us on LinkedIn. We have a fairly active LinkedIn handle and tell our story there. So please connect with me there, and I look forward to staying in touch.
Amazing. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.